just absolutely adored her. I really related to like her talk about her social anxieties, and I loved the New York City vibes in this book. Oh my god. So in this book, Ricky keeps seeing this guy around everywhere she goes, and she keeps feeling like she has some kind of unexplained connection with this man. Like she doesn't know who he is, but she feels connected to him in some weird way. And then in alternate chapters, we not only get Ricky's perspective in this book, but in alternate chapters, we do follow the perspective of this guy named Breeze, who was living in New York in the 1920s. And so these two timelines are taking place like 100 years apart from each other. And I'm not gonna lie, like the main reason why this book ended up being around like a 3.5 for me is because I didn't care about any of the other perspectives that we were getting in this book except for Ricky's. I just feel like this book could have really improved for me if we were only following from Ricky's perspective, because she was the main character that I was connecting with, and I just didn't care for like the multiple perspectives in this book. And then there was also like, there was a moment halfway in the book where there was something that was revealed to us, I think, as the reader, that I thought was very odd. It was actually a little bit underwhelming, like what ended up happening. Like I thought it was going to be a little bit more interesting, but then the
That's
ending
Ringo.
of this book, oh my gosh, I absolutely loved the ending of this. Like it literally made me almost emotional. I was gonna cry. I did actually include some spoilers in the reading vlog that I filmed, so if you do want more of my thoughts, like where I do jump into spoilers a little bit to explain myself a little bit better, then I'll have that reading vlog linked down below. Then in that reading vlog, I also read The Fury by Alex Michaelides, which this was my Book Troop book club pick for the month of March, so I will have the Book Troop live show linked down below if you missed it. But this book was quite an interesting time. You know, this was definitely one of my most anticipated books of this year because of how much I loved the two previous books written by this author. And this one, unfortunately, is probably my least favorite from him so far, but I still had a somewhat fun time reading this. Like, I didn't hate this book the way a lot of people seem to be hating it, but in this story, we're following this character named Elliot, and he is like our narrator for the story. He's doing a lot of like breaking the fourth wall, talking directly to you as the reader. It almost reminded me a little bit of that book, Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. Like, it definitely has that vibe where like Elliot's
Oh, I
just
need to read that
talking to you
book.
as the reader and,
Everyone in my family has killed someone. Yeah, we need to read that book.
We're following a whole group of characters who are going to this private island in Greece together, and Elliot is the main narrator, but it's really about this actress named Lana, and then murder happens while they're on the island, and it kind of reads almost like an homage, like, I don't know, the narration style. It really started to drive me nuts towards the second half of the book. I don't know, the writing style just really got on my nerves in the second half of this book, and it just really started to feel like repetitive, and like the story was just dragging. I just needed more. But then even the climax of the story, it's like one of those plot twists where you're just like, okay, you really need to like suspend your disbelief for this one. And even though I did enjoy like the last final twist that was revealed, but for the most part, this book was kind of a hot mess. Like, it was all over the place, and I just don't know how I feel about any of it, but it feels right that this is probably like a 3-star for me, because of course,
Luna, this is the best book I read this year.
The next book that I read this month was Midnight on Beacon Street. I ended up getting this one from my library.
New Emily Henry comes out this month.
And
we're gonna wait for Book of the Month. I'm sure Book of the Month is gonna happen.
It says this is a love letter to vintage horror movies in which a babysitter must overcome her own anxiety to protect 2 children when strangers contagious, and nothing fucking happens in this book. Like, literally nothing fucking happens. Nothing.
Oh, Gabby,
I was actually
stop
really upset
swearing.
when I read this book because I had such high expectations for it. Like, this cover is so freaking cute, and that premise was everything. So like, I should have been the target audience for this, but I feel like this book is being completely mismarketed. Like, completely. Because this doesn't really read like a horror or a thriller at all. If anything, it reads like a little bit of a cozy.
What are we
like,
watching? Gabby
situation.
reads.
This book was so confusing too with the way that it was written, because it would try to go like back and forth in the timeline constantly. Like, we would follow the young boy Ben. He's like one of the kids that she's watching. We would follow his perspective, and then it would be like 6 minutes after midnight, and then in the next chapter it's like 6 hours.
Yeah, that's
before
the
midnight.
hamster that you
And then
look
the
like.
next
Yep.
chapter is 10 hours before midnight.
But you're
And
so
then the next chapter
different.
is like 6
You
years
look
ago.
like her, but you're
What
so
is going
different,
on?
Luna.
Like, I just found the timeline in general was so confusing, and like, for what? And those chapters that were taking place like years ago, like, I'm sorry, there was no reason for those drama for like the entire 190 pages. I'm not even kidding you when I say that.
I'm gonna meet Willie. That's Willie. There's that Willie.
Like, thriller-y,
And there's
happens
Kmart.
until,
We
like,
never did.
15 or something.
There's
Like, over
Kmart.
100
We
pages
still
in.
support
But
them,
even
though.
that, I was like, wait, you're kidding me? Like, that is the moment we're all talking about. Like, that's what we're considering to be a thriller, because that was not even that interesting. I was just so frustrated with this. Like, it was so poorly
We need a
written,
picture.
in my
We need to
opinion.
tell Willie
None
that
of
we
these
need a
characters
picture of
were
her,
interesting
Nala,
from
and
the
Jenny
start.
now.
They were all so one-dimensional, so basic, so cliche.
Yeah,
This
I
was a
know.
one-star for me. Can you tell? I really
know.
don't like this. Like, I'm so upset about it. I just think that this is a bunch of bullshit on the back right here. You know, I think this is a bunch of bullshit. It says Midnight on Beacon Street is a
Gabby, stop swearing. End it off with our favorite section. Well, one of our favorite sections.
Over on Patreon. The main theme, you know, for this readathon is just to read books that all had like yellow.
She's like, another troll? Jeez, there's so many trolls here.
Big Swiss was the first book that I read. I actually started and finished this like before the readathon even started, but I'm still counting this towards my reading for the readathon. But this is a book that I'm really intrigued by. I had heard a lot.
I'm out of here. Bye. Don't forget to give me a paw up and subscribe.
Review on it, and she had me so intrigued by what she said about this book that I was like, okay, I need to read it.